The giant space station floated in the darkness above Kepler Prime, its metal walls gleaming under the light of twin suns. Inside the main meeting hall, hundreds of alien beings gathered around a massive round table. The air buzzed with different languages and the sound of strange breathing patterns. Ambassador Veltar stood tall on his powerful legs, his green scales catching the light as he moved. His yellow eyes swept across the room, looking at each alien species with barely hidden anger. The Vorthic warrior had fought in 12 wars and conquered 6 star systems. He did not like what he was hearing today. "These humans are a problem," he said, his voice deep and threatening. "They spread across space like a disease. They take planets and build cities without asking anyone. They ignore our messages and refuse to follow our rules." The other aliens nodded their heads, tentacles and energy forms in agreement. The Zephyrians floated above their seats like glowing clouds of light. Their leader, Zixandra, pulsed with blue energy as she spoke. "We have watched them for 50 of their years," she said in a voice like wind chimes. "They come from the 3rd planet of a yellow star. Their world is classified as a Class 12 death world. The gravity is twice what most species can handle. The weather kills with ice and fire. Poisonous creatures hunt in every forest and ocean. Yet somehow, these humans survived and learned to travel between stars." A clicking sound filled the air as the Crix Collective joined the conversation. The insect-like beings moved as one mind, speaking through their chosen representative. "The humans confuse us," the speaker clicked. "They show kindness to other species, even former enemies. They waste resources helping the weak and injured. This behavior makes no sense for Deathworld predators." High Counselor Threndick raised one of his 4 arms for silence. The ancient being had lived for over 800 years and had seen the rise and fall of countless civilizations. His wrinkled face showed concern as he looked at the intelligence reports floating in holographic displays around the table. "Let me tell you what we know about these humans," Threndick said slowly. "They have been in space for only 200 years. Their technology appears primitive compared to ours. They still use chemical rockets to reach orbit. Their weapons fire solid metal bullets instead of energy beams. Their ships are made of basic metals instead of advanced crystals." He paused and touched a control on his chair. The holographic display showed a map of local space with human colonies marked in red dots. "But look at this expansion pattern," he continued. "In just 50 years, they have established colonies on 47 worlds. They choose planets that other species cannot live on, high-gravity worlds, planets with dangerous weather, worlds with poisonous atmospheres. They seem to prefer the places that would kill the rest of us." Ambassador Veltar slammed his clawed fist on the table. "This is exactly why they must be stopped. They are Deathworld barbarians who do not understand civilization. They take what they want and ignore proper authority. We have sent them 17 official communications demanding they report to this council. 17 messages and not one response." The room filled with angry sounds as different species expressed their frustration. The Harmonious Collective sang a sad song about broken communications. The crystal mines flashed with irritated colors. Even the peaceful Plant Federation rustled their leaves in annoyance. Counselor Midish of the Harmony Collective stood up slowly, her crystal body reflecting rainbow colors across the room. She was one of the few beings present who had actually studied human behavior instead of just reading military reports. "Honored friends," she said in a musical voice, "perhaps we should consider why the humans have not responded to our messages. Our intelligence shows they are not primitive in all ways. They have developed quantum computers and fusion power. Their medical technology allows them to live twice as long as their ancestors. Maybe they understand our communications but choose not to answer." The suggestion sent a wave of shock through the assembly. The idea that a young species would deliberately ignore the Galactic Council was almost unthinkable. For 3,000 years, the Council had maintained peace and order across hundreds of star systems. Every species eventually accepted Council authority and followed Council law. "Impossible," hissed Ambassador Veltar. No species has ever refused to acknowledge Council authority. They are probably too primitive to understand our messages. Their brains may not be developed enough for proper diplomacy. Dr. Zaraline, the galaxy's leading expert on alien psychology, activated her translation device and spoke in her species' complex mathematical language. The device converted her thoughts into words the others could understand. I have analyzed human behavioral patterns from long-range observations, she said. These beings show remarkable adaptability and learning speed. They study everything around them and remember what they learn. Their expansion follows careful planning, not random wandering. I believe they understand our messages perfectly. They simply do not care what we think. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. If humans were deliberately ignoring the Council, it meant they considered themselves equals to the galaxy's most powerful civilizations. Such arrogance from a Deathworld species was both insulting and dangerous. High Counselor Threnduk stood up, his ancient face showing the weight of his decision. The human problem requires immediate action. They cannot be allowed to continue their unauthorized expansion. Their refusal to communicate shows disrespect for galactic law and order. If we do nothing, other young species might follow their example. He looked around the table at each delegation before continuing. I propose we send an enforcement fleet to human space. Not to destroy them, but to demonstrate our power and convince them to join civilized society. A show of force from our combined fleets should be enough to bring them to the negotiating table. The vote was quick and unanimous. Every species agreed that humanity needed to be taught proper respect for galactic authority. The enforcement fleet would consist of 200 ships from 5 different civilizations. It would be more than enough to handle whatever primitive defenses the humans might have prepared. As the council members filed out of the meeting hall, none of them noticed the small listening device attached to the underside of the table. The device had been there for 3 months, recording every word and transmitting the information across space through quantum communication channels. Far away in the Sol system, Captain Jake Morrison sat in his command chair aboard the USS Defiance, reading the transmission with growing concern. Around him, his crew worked quietly at their stations, preparing for what they all knew was coming. Signal the other ships, Morrison said to his communications officer. Tell them the Council has finally made their decision. Begin Protocol Omega. Immediately. Lieutenant Colonel Lisa Park looked up from her engineering station. Sir, are you sure about this? Once we start Protocol Omega, there's no going back. The galaxy will know exactly what humanity is capable of. Morrison nodded grimly, as he watched the tactical display show alien fleet movements at the edge of their sensor range. They've made their choice, Lisa. They see us as primitive barbarians who need to be controlled. Time to show them what Deathworld barbarians can really do when they're properly motivated. The USS Defiance and 11 sister ships began moving toward the outer edge of the solar system, their fusion drives burning bright against the darkness of space. Behind them, hidden bases throughout the system began activating weapons that had been under construction for decades. The Galactic Council had decided to teach humanity a lesson about power and authority. They were about to learn a much more important lesson about what happens when you threaten a species that had survived everything their homeworld could throw at them. The age of human expansion was about to begin, whether the galaxy was ready or not. Admiral Kethmore stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the blue swirl of hyperspace fade away as his fleet returned to normal space. Around him, 200 alien warships materialized in perfect formation at the edge of the Sol system. The massive Vorthak dreadnoughts led the way, their hulls bristling with plasma cannons and missile tubes. Behind them came the sleek Zephyrian energy ships and the geometric vessels of the Crix Collective. Impressive sight, is it not? Asked Commander Yildak, his scales gleaming under the bridge lights. I doubt these primitive humans have ever seen such a display of power. Admiral Kethmore nodded with satisfaction. His long military career had taken him to 40 star systems, and he had never failed to bring order to unruly species. These humans would surrender quickly once they saw what they faced. The fleet's sensors immediately detected movement from the inner system. 12 ships were approaching, their fusion drives burning bright against the darkness. The alien tactical officers studied the readings with growing amusement. "Sir," reported the sensor operator, "the human vessels appear to be constructed from basic metal alloys. No energy shields detected. Their weapon systems show as primitive kinetic launchers. This will be easier than expected." Admiral Kethmer opened a communication channel, broadcasting in the standard galactic trade language. His voice carried the authority of countless victories. "Attention, human vessels. I am Admiral Kethmer of the Galactic Council Enforcement. Fleet, you are in violation of Council law regarding unauthorized expansion. Surrender immediately and prepare to be escorted to Kepler Prime for judgment." The response came within seconds, but not in the trade language. Instead, the human captain spoke in perfect Vorthek, his pronunciation flawless and his tone respectfully. "Professional. Admiral Kethmer, this is Captain Jake Morrison of the Terran Defense Force. I must inform you that you have entered sovereign human space without permission. Under our laws, this constitutes an act of war. You have 30 seconds to reverse course and leave our territory." The alien bridge crew erupted in laughter. The sound translated poorly across different species, creating a bizarre mixture of hisses, clicks, and energy pulses. The idea that 12 primitive ships would threaten a fleet of 200 was beyond ridiculous. "Human," Admiral Kethmore replied with amusement, "your bravado is noted but pointless. We represent the combined military might of 17 galactic civilizations. Your 12 ships cannot possibly threaten us. Stand down immediately or face destruction." Captain Morrison's voice remained calm and steady. "Admiral, I gave you 30 seconds. That time has now expired. You have chosen war." The communication channel went silent. What happened next would be studied in military academies for centuries to come. The 12 human ships did not retreat or attempt to negotiate further. Instead, they accelerated directly toward the Council fleet at speeds that should have been impossible for vessels of their size. The first shock came when the human ships opened fire at a range that exceeded the aliens' own weapon systems. Streams of projectiles raced across space, traveling at significant fractions of light speed. The aliens had expected crude bullets, but these were smart munitions that adjusted their paths mid-flight and carried warheads designed specifically for alien ship construction. The projectiles punched through energy shields like they were made of paper. 3 Zephyrian cruisers exploded in brilliant flashes of light as their power cores were ruptured. A Krix collective ship broke apart as kinetic rounds tore through its geometric hull plating. "Impossible," whispered Commander Yildak as he watched the tactical display. "Their weapons should not be able to penetrate our shields at that range." The second shock was the humans' coordination. Instead of attacking in a standard battle line, the 12 ships moved like dancers performing a deadly ballet. Each vessel seemed to know exactly where every other ship would be at any given moment. They wove through the Council fleet with precision that suggested months of practice and planning. Admiral Kethmer watched in growing horror. As his carefully arranged formation began to collapse, the humans concentrated their fire on command. Ships and shield generators with surgical accuracy. They seemed to know exactly which systems to target to cause maximum damage with minimum effort. "Return fire," he ordered desperately. All ships engaged the human vessels immediately. The alien fleet responded with overwhelming firepower. Plasma beams, missile volleys, and energy blasts filled space between the opposing forces. 3 human ships took direct hits and exploded in brilliant fireballs, but the remaining 9 showed no signs of retreating. The third shock was the humans' resilience. When alien weapons finally found their targets, the human ships absorbed damage that should have crippled them and kept fighting. Their hulls might be made of simple metal, but that metal had been engineered to distribute impact forces and repair minor damage automatically. The USS Defiance performed a maneuver that violated everything Admiral Kethmer knew about physics. The ship spun around its center of mass while maintaining forward momentum, bringing its rear weapons to bear on a pursuing cruiser. The alien vessel exploded as kinetic rounds tore through its engine compartment. "This cannot be happening, Admiral," Kethmer said to himself as more ships on his tactical display changed from green to red. "They are primitives, Deathworlders without proper technology. We outnumber them 20 to 1. Captain Morrison's voice cut through the chaos on an open communication channel. "This is Captain Jake Morrison to all alien vessels. Your Admiral was given a chance to withdraw peacefully. Since you chose war, let me educate you about Deathworld military doctrine." He paused as another alien ship exploded in the distance. "We do not fight fair. We do not show mercy to invaders. And we certainly do not surrender when outnumbered. Every human in this fleet volunteered to die today if necessary to protect our homes and families. Can you say the same about your crews?" The question hung in space like a challenge. Admiral Kethmer realized with growing dread that the answer was no. His crews were professionals following orders, not desperate defenders fighting for survival. The turning point came when the human ship Phoenix broke from formation and accelerated directly toward the alien flagship. Instead of ramming the larger vessel, it deployed boarding pods that punched deep into the ship's hull. Within minutes, alarms began sounding throughout the alien vessel. "Sir," reported the security chief, his voice tight with fear, "we have armed humans inside the ship. They are fighting their way toward the bridge with weapons that seem designed specifically to kill Vorthic warriors." Admiral Kethmer felt his blood turn cold. The humans had not only studied alien languages and technology, they had prepared specialized weapons for fighting each species they might encounter. This was not a desperate last stand by primitive barbarians. This was a carefully planned military operation by beings who had been preparing for this moment for years. The battle raged for 2 more hours, but the outcome was no longer in doubt. The human ships used tactics that no civilized species would consider honorable. They targeted life support systems, communications arrays, and escape pods. They showed no mercy to disabled vessels and gave no quarter to surrendering crews. When the surviving Council ships finally retreated into hyperspace, they left behind the burning wreckage of 137 vessels. The humans had lost 5 ships and suffered damage to the remaining 7. But they had achieved something impossible. They had defeated the combined military might of 17 alien civilizations. As the alien fleet disappeared into hyperspace, Captain Morrison opened a final communication channel and broadcast a message on all known frequencies. "To the Galactic Council and all member species, humanity desires peaceful coexistence with all civilizations. However, we will not submit to external authority or accept limitations on our sovereignty. Any fleet that enters human space without permission will be considered hostile and destroyed accordingly." He paused, looking at the debris field that had once been a mighty alien fleet. "We are prepared to defend ourselves against any force you can assemble. Next time, send diplomats instead of warships." The message raced across space at light speed, carrying with it the news that would change the galaxy forever. The age of human expansion had begun, and the established order would never be the same again. The emergency session of the Galactic Council began 3 days after the battle reports arrived at Kepler Prime. High Counselor Threnduk sat in his ceremonial chair, his forearms trembling slightly as he reviewed the data for the 100th time. Around the great circular table, representatives from dozens of alien species waited in tense silence. "The battle footage has been verified by our best technicians," Threnduk announced, his ancient voice carrying across the chamber. "It has not been altered or enhanced in any way. What you are about to see actually happened." The holographic display activated, showing 12 human ships facing 200 Council vessels. The assembled aliens watched in stunned silence as the humans systematically destroyed 2/3 of the enforcement fleet. When the footage ended, the chamber remained quiet for several long minutes. Ambassador Veltar of the Vorthak rose on unsteady legs. The proud warrior looked older than his 800 years, his scales dull and his movements uncertain. The defeat of his people's finest fleet had shaken him to his core. "Honored Council," he said slowly, "I must report additional intelligence from our deep space monitoring stations. The humans did not deploy their entire fleet for this engagement. Our estimates now suggest they possess between 500 and 800 vessels of similar capability distributed throughout their territory. The chamber erupted in chaos. Zephyrian energy beings flickered with alarm, their usual calm shattered by the implications. Crick's representatives clicked and buzzed in rapid communication with their hive minds. Several of the smaller species began evacuating their representatives entirely, fearing that humanity might attack the council station itself. Counselor Midish of the Harmony Collective spoke for the first time in decades, her crystal form casting rainbow patterns across the walls. Honored members, we may have made a catastrophic error in judgment. Our intelligence reports focused entirely on human technology while ignoring human psychology and strategy. She gestured toward the tactical display still showing the battles. Aftermath. These beings evolved on a Class 12 Deathworld, but they are not simply violent predators driven by instinct. They are strategic thinkers who have been preparing for our arrival for decades. Every move they made suggests careful planning and long-term preparation. Dr. Zerlin, the galaxy's premier expert on alien psychology, activated her translation device and addressed the assembly. Her mathematical language converted into words that chilled every being present. Esteemed colleagues, I have completed my analysis of human behavior patterns observed during the engagement. We classified them as typical Deathworld predators based solely on their planet of origin. This was a fundamental error. They are persistence hunters who have adapted their hunting strategies to warfare between entire civilizations. She paused, allowing her words to sink in before continuing. They do not seek quick victories or territorial conquest like most aggressive species. Instead, they focus on the complete elimination of threats to their species' long-term survival. This makes them far more dangerous than any enemy we have previously encountered. Meanwhile, on Earth, President Carol Martinez stood in the secure briefing room beneath the Global Defense Council headquarters. The underground facility had been designed to survive nuclear war, but now it served as humanity's command center for potential galactic conflict. Military commanders, scientists, and political leaders from every human nation filled the room. General Paul Thompson, the newly appointed chairman of the Joint Chiefs, provided the tactical assessment that everyone had been dreading. The first engagement exceeded our best-case projections in terms of performance, but we must assume the aliens will adapt quickly. Intelligence reports indicate massive fleet movements from at least 7 different civilizations. He touched a control, and the wall display showed a 3-dimensional map of local galactic space. Red indicators marked alien fleet concentrations in multiple star systems. Conservative estimates put their combined fleet strength at over 3,000 vessels. They are massing forces in 3 different locations, probably planning a coordinated assault from multiple directions. This time, they will not underestimate us. Dr. Nina Foster, recently promoted to Chief Science Advisor, stepped forward with her own disturbing intelligence. Our deep space monitoring network has detected something else. The aliens are not just mobilizing military forces. They are evacuating civilian populations from systems near human space. This suggests they are preparing for a war of extermination, not conquest. President Martinez nodded grimly as she absorbed the implications. The first battle had been a warning shot, a demonstration of human capability designed to encourage diplomatic solutions. Instead, it had convinced the galaxy that humanity represented an existential threat that needed to be eliminated completely. Then, re-implement the full Protocol Omega, she decided. Signal all colonies to activate their defensive platforms. Recall every exploration vessel to the Sol System perimeter. Begin construction of the orbital fortresses we hoped we would never need. She paused, looking around the room at the faces of humanity's leaders, and send another message to the Galactic Council. Make it clear that we still prefer peaceful coexistence, but we are prepared to defend ourselves against any force they can assemble. The message, when it reached Kepler Prime, was simple and direct. It arrived simultaneously in the native languages of every council species, demonstrating humanity's linguistic capabilities and attention to detail. To the Galactic Council and member civilizations, humanity desires peaceful coexistence with all species. We have no interest in conquest or domination. However, we will not submit to external authority or accept limitations on our sovereignty. Any fleet that enters our space will be considered hostile and destroyed. We are prepared to defend ourselves against any force you can assemble. Choose wisely. The Council's response was swift and unanimous. Every member species voted to mobilize the largest military force in galactic history. Over the following months, the greatest armada ever assembled began gathering in the Rigel system, just outside the range of human sensors. 4,000 warships from 23 different civilizations prepared for what military analysts called the final solution to the human problem. The fleet included the Vorthic Empire's newest dreadnoughts, rebuilt with armor specifically designed to resist kinetic weapons. The Zephyrians contributed their most powerful energy-based siege platforms capable of destroying planets from orbit. The Krix Collective provided 200 swarm ships that could coordinate attacks through hive-mind communication. Ancient species that had not fought wars in millennia emerged from their distant territories with weapons technology that predated galactic civilization. The Ascended themselves contributed their mobile battle stations, fortress-sized vessels that had conquered entire star systems in ages past. Supreme Admiral Valkyris of the Ascended took command of the combined fleet from aboard the massive battle station. Inevitable victory. The vessel was the size of a small moon, armed with weapons that could crack continents and protected by shields that had never been breached in 3,000 years of warfare. This time, there will be no mistakes, he announced to his gathered fleet commanders. We have studied human tactics and adapted our strategies accordingly. We have prepared countermeasures for every weapon they deployed in the previous engagement. Most importantly, we will not underestimate their resolve or capabilities. He gestured toward the tactical display showing the Sol system. The humans have had 6 months to prepare their defenses. They may have 50 ships defending their homeworld, perhaps even 100. It will not matter. We will overwhelm them with sheer numbers and superior firepower. The human threat will be eliminated permanently. As the alien armada completed its preparations, humanity worked frantically to ready their own defenses. The Sol system underwent the most extensive militarization in human history. Asteroid mining stations were converted into weapon platforms. The moons of gas giants bristled with missile launchers and kinetic bombardment systems. Hidden bases throughout the outer system revealed themselves as construction sites for humanity's most ambitious project yet. If the aliens wanted a war of extermination, they would get one. But it would not be the easy victory they expected. The stage was set for the largest space battle in galactic history. 4,000 alien warships against humanity's entire defensive capability. The outcome would determine not just the fate of Earth, but the future balance of power throughout the galaxy. War was coming to the Sol system, and this time there would be no mercy shown by either side. 6 months after the first battle, the largest fleet in galactic history emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system. 4,000 alien warships spread across space in a formation that stretched for millions of kilometers. Supreme Admiral Valkyris commanded from the massive battle station Inevitable Victory, a fortress the size of a small moon that bristled with weapons capable of destroying planets. The alien commanders expected to find perhaps 100 human vessels, desperately defending their homeworld. What they actually encountered defied every principle of military logistics. They understood the Sol system had been transformed into the galaxy's most heavily defended fortress. Asteroid mining stations revealed themselves as weapon platforms, armed with railguns and missile launchers. The moons of Jupiter and Saturn bristled with defensive installations that had been hidden beneath fake mining equipment. Even the outer asteroid belt seemed to shimmer with cloaked defensive positions. Admiral Jake Morrison, now promoted to commander of humanity's entire defense fleet, watched the alien formation from the bridge of the USS Retribution. His fleet had grown to include 300 frontline warships, each one incorporating lessons learned from the first battle. Around him, his crew worked with the calm efficiency of people who had been preparing for this moment their entire lives. "They brought everything they have," observed Commander Lisa Park from her engineering station. The fusion drives of human ships burned brighter than ever before, powered by improvements she had developed during the 6 months of preparation. "Good," Morrison replied calmly. "That means we only have to beat them once." The battle began not with the massive ship-to-ship combat the aliens expected, but with something they had never encountered before. Major Alex Chung, humanity's chief cyber warfare specialist, launched a coordinated digital assault on the alien fleet's communication systems. Human hackers had spent months studying alien computer systems captured from the first battle. They had learned to exploit weaknesses in alien software and introduce viruses that spread through fleet networks like wildfire. Within minutes of the engagement starting, alien ships began receiving false sensor readings and contradictory orders. 3. Vorthok dreadnoughts opened fire on their own support vessels, convinced by corrupted data that they were facing human ships. A squadron of Zephyrian energy platforms targeted each other in a brilliant display of friendly fire. The carefully coordinated alien formation began to collapse into chaos before a single human weapon had been fired. Supreme Admiral Valkarith watched his tactical display with growing horror as green indicators representing his own ships began changing to red. "What is happening?" he demanded of his communications officer. "Why are our ships attacking each other?" "Sir, we are receiving reports of system malfunctions throughout the fleet. Ships are reporting false sensor contacts and receiving orders that contradict our battle plan. It appears the humans have found a way to interfere with our computer networks." The second phase of humanity's defense involved the activation of weapons that had been seeded throughout the outer Sol system over decades of careful preparation. Antimatter mines, cloaked and booby-trapped, waited along the approach routes that alien tacticians would naturally choose. As the alien fleet advanced toward Earth, formations of ships triggered massive explosions that vaporized entire squadrons. The mines were not randomly placed but positioned according to mathematical models that predicted alien fleet movements with devastating accuracy. Crick's collective formation of 50 ships disappeared in a single blinding flash as they encountered a minefield designed specifically for their geometric flight patterns. The surviving aliens tried to detect and clear the remaining mines, but each attempt triggered additional explosions and revealed more hidden weapons. "Impossible," whispered Supreme Admiral Valkaris as he watched another formation vanish from his display. "How could they predict our movements so precisely? We only finalized these battle plans days ago." The answer lay in humanity's greatest secret weapon. For years, human intelligence agents had infiltrated alien societies, learned their languages, and studied their military doctrines. Every aspect of the alien attack had been anticipated and countered in advance. The third phase showcased humanity's true tactical genius. As alien forces struggled with system failures and hidden mines, human ships emerged from positions that should have been impossible to maintain. They had been hiding behind asteroids, inside gas, giant atmospheres, and even in the shadow of the sun itself. The human fleet moved with perfect coordination through quantum entanglement communication systems that allowed instantaneous contact across vast distances. Every ship knew exactly where every other ship would be at any given moment, creating a level of tactical unity that the aliens had never seen before. Admiral Morrison led the counterattack personally, his ship diving through the alien formation like a knife through cloth. Human vessels that had appeared to be defensive platforms suddenly revealed themselves as mobile weapons, capable of relocating during combat. The battle reached its climax when Commander Ryan Davis, now General of the Marine Corps, launched the most audacious assault in military history. Instead of trying to capture the alien flagship, his forces targeted the fleet's supply ships and mobile repair facilities. "Cut off their ability to maintain their ships during extended combat," Morrison had ordered. Force them into a war of attrition that favors the defenders. Human boarding pods, launched from specialized assault ships, punched through alien hulls and deployed Marines equipped with weapons designed for fighting each species they encountered. The Marines fought with the desperate fury of people defending their homes against extinction. The tide turned when Admiral Morrison made a decision that shocked both human and alien observers. Rather than continuing the defensive battle, he ordered a direct assault on the inevitable victory itself. The human fleet abandoned all defensive positions and launched a coordinated attack on the enemy command ship. "Sir," protested Commander Park, "that's suicide. We'll take massive casualties trying to reach their flagship." Morrison's voice was steady as he gave the order that would define humanity's place in the galaxy. "Lisa, they came here to exterminate our entire species. Our families, our children, our future. Sometimes the only way to save everything you love is to risk everything you have." The USS Retribution, supported by 60 other human vessels, fought through layers of alien defenses in a running battle that lasted 3 hours. Human ships exploded around them, but the survivors pressed forward with single-minded determination. The final engagement took place inside the battle station itself, as human Marines fought deck by deck toward the command center where Supreme Admiral Valkaris made his last stand. The ancient ascended warrior fell defending his bridge, but not before transmitting a final message to his fleet. "Retreat," he ordered with his dying breath. "These humans cannot be defeated by conventional warfare. They fight like their entire species depends on victory, because for them it does." When the inevitable victory's destruction created a brief supernova that illuminated the entire Sol system, the surviving alien ships fled in complete disorder. They left behind the wreckage of nearly 3,000 vessels and carried with them the knowledge that humanity could not be conquered through military force. Admiral Morrison stood on his damaged bridge, looking out at the debris field that had once been the galaxy's mightiest fleet. Around him, his surviving crew worked to rescue alien survivors from damaged ships, showing the mercy that their enemies had planned to deny humanity. "Signal all human forces," he ordered quietly. "Begin rescue operations for alien survivors. And send a message to every civilization in the galaxy. Tell them that Earth stands ready to discuss peace terms with anyone who approaches us as equals." The age of human dominance had begun, written in fire across the darkness of space. 1 year after the great battle at Sol, President Carol Martinez stood before the largest gathering of alien representatives in galactic history. The new assembly hall on Neutral Station Europa 7 had been built specifically for this moment, with atmospheric controls and gravity settings that could accommodate over 200 different species. The sight before her would have been impossible to imagine just 2 years ago. Alien beings who had once planned humanity's extinction now waited respectfully for her to speak. Some floated in specialized atmospheric bubbles, others required robotic translation devices, and a few existed as pure energy contained in crystalline matrices. "Honored representatives," Martinez began, her words translated into dozens of languages simultaneously. "We gather today not as conquerors and conquered, but as equals seeking a better future for all our species." The first alien to respond was Counselor Midish of the Harmony Collective, whose crystal form had become a symbol of the peaceful faction that had emerged after humanity's victory. She had been among the few who had advocated for diplomacy from the beginning, and her words carried weight with many species. "President Martinez," she said, her musical voice carrying across the chamber, "my people come before you not as supplicants, but as friends seeking mutual understanding. We have witnessed your species' capacity for both devastating warfare and remarkable mercy. The galaxy has learned much about humanity in recent months." Her words reflected a truth that had shocked alien civilizations across known space. Despite their overwhelming victory, humans had gone to extraordinary lengths to rescue alien survivors from damaged ships. Human medical teams had provided aid to enemy wounded using technology that many aliens had never seen before. Most surprisingly, humanity had offered to return all captured alien technology and prisoners in exchange for simple recognition of human sovereignty. Admiral Jake Morrison, now serving as humanity's first Minister of Galactic Defense, stood to address the assembly. His uniform bore the scars of recent battles, but his voice remained calm and professional as he outlined the new reality. Our intelligence networks now extend throughout local galactic space, he reported. We have established defensive platforms in 57 systems and signed mutual defense agreements with 18 species. Any civilization that threatens humanity or our allies will face the same response that the former Galactic Council received. The implications were staggering. In less than 2 years, humanity had transformed from an unknown species on the galactic periphery to the dominant military power in their entire region of space. Their technology, initially dismissed as primitive, had proven superior to anything the established civilizations possessed. Dr. Nina Foster, now director of the newly formed Institute for Galactic Sciences, explained the technological revolution that humanity's emergence had triggered throughout the galaxy. 24 alien civilizations have requested access to our research on fusion technology, quantum communications, and kinetic weapons systems, she reported. In exchange, they are sharing knowledge of hyperspace navigation, energy manipulation, and biological sciences that will benefit all our species. The rate of scientific advancement has increased dramatically across all participating civilizations. The most significant change, however, was political. The old Galactic Council had been dissolved completely, its authority shattered by the spectacular failure to subdue a single species. Member civilizations had withdrawn from collective agreements and begun negotiating directly with humanity for trade deals and protection pacts. General Ryan Davis, now commanding the Interstellar Marine Corps, addressed the long-term security implications that concerned many smaller species. We have received reports that several major civilizations are restructuring their militaries based on human tactical doctrines, he noted. The Zephyrians are developing kinetic weapons platforms. The Krix are experimenting with individual initiative training that goes against their hive mind nature. Even the remaining Vorthak territories are studying human psychological warfare techniques. But not all the changes had been military in nature. Trade between human space and alien civilizations had increased by over 400% in just 1 year. Human colonies that had once struggled to obtain basic supplies now served as trading hubs for dozens of species. Alien civilians, curious about the species that had defeated their greatest military alliance, traveled to human worlds as tourists and students. The cultural exchange had been remarkable in both directions. Human universities now hosted alien exchange students studying everything from human military history to Earth's diverse musical traditions. Meanwhile, human scientists and artists traveled to alien worlds to learn technologies and art forms that had developed over thousands of years. Ambassador Elena Rodriguez, humanity's first diplomatic representative to the former Council territories, presented the most encouraging statistics of all. 47 species have established permanent embassies on Earth, she reported. Our diplomatic corps now maintains peaceful relations with over 100 different civilizations. Most importantly, we have not fired a shot in anger for 8 months, despite several territorial disputes that could have led to conflict. The Assembly's attention turned to the podium as Martinez prepared to deliver her closing address. This speech would establish the principles that would guide galactic civilization for generations to come. We came from a death world, she began, her voice carrying to every corner of the vast chamber. We learned to survive in an environment that would kill most of you within minutes. But we also learned to cooperate, to sacrifice for the greater good, and to find peaceful solutions when warfare seemed inevitable. She paused, looking out at the hundreds of alien faces, energy patterns, and crystalline forms that represented the diversity of galactic life. These traits served us well in war, but they serve us better in peace. Humanity offers partnership to any species willing to treat us as equals. We will share our technology, our knowledge, and our protection with those who approach us in friendship. But we will never again allow any civilization to threaten our right to exist and grow among the stars. The response was immediate and unanimous. Every species present voted to establish the new galactic alliance, with humanity as the first among equals rather than subjects of a distant authority. As the ceremony concluded, and representatives began the long journey back to their homeworlds, Admiral Morrison stood with President Martinez on the observation deck of Europa 7. Through the transparent, aluminum windows they could see human and alien ships departing together, their crews working side by side. "Do you think it will last?" Martinez asked quietly. Morrison nodded as he watched a human destroyer escort a group of Harmony collective vessels toward the hyperspace jump point. "It will last because we made it clear from the beginning that we're not conquerors, we're defenders. And now that the galaxy knows what happens when you threaten us, I think they'll prefer to be our friends." The age of human expansion had indeed begun, but it was an expansion built on mutual respect rather than fear. The galaxy had learned that Deathworlders could be the galaxy's greatest protectors when they chose cooperation over conquest. Everything had changed the moment the Deathworlder fleet arrived, and the universe was better for it.